Hi everyone, my name is Jay, and today we're going to be talking about what are cells, particularly what are organelles. So to start us off, let's go ahead and talk about some vocabulary. We're going to start off with the cell. The cell is the smallest structural and functional unit of an organism. Think of a cell like you would a single Lego brick. If you have one Lego brick, you can't really do a lot with it. But if you have a whole bunch of Lego bricks, you can make a great big Lego tower. Now, the reason that's important to know is because we're going to think of the Lego brick like a cell. One single Lego brick isn't a lot, just like one single cell isn't a lot. But if you put a whole bunch of Lego bricks together, you're going to get an animal or a plant, or possibly even you. A eukaryotic cell is a cell that has a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. These are going to be animal cells and plant cells. Now, animal and plant cells aren't exactly the same thing, but they're both eukaryotic cells. So they have the same idea. So the cells that make up an octopus and the cells that make up the grass outside are similar. They have some differences, but they're not quite as different as prokaryotes are from eukaryotes. Prokaryotic cells are cells that do not have a nucleus and they lack bound organelles. This is going to be bacteria. We're not really going to go over bacteria today, but it is an important term to know because prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells are not the same thing, and that's a very important thing to remember. And then finally, an organelle is a cell organ with a very specific function. Think of it like the way we would think of our organs. Our heart has a beat, and our stomach digests food. Without these things, we wouldn't be able to function. The organelles inside of a cell have very specific functions such as digestion, storage, things like that. So what is a eukaryote? As you can see, eukaryotes are made up of plant cells and animal cells. But animal cells and plant cells aren't exactly the same, but they both are eukaryotes. So here I have a list of all the similarities and all the differences. So let's go ahead and start off with the similarities. There's the nucleus, the cell membrane, the cytosol, the Golgi. Lysosomes may not be in this both list. A lot of charts you'll see will actually put them over here with animal cells just because they're very rare in plants. Peroxisomes, mitochondria. The vacuole is a lot like how the lysosome is, except it's small in animal cells, so people will usually group it over here with plant cells. The endoplasmic reticulum and ribosomes. And then very specific to plant cells are the cell wall and the chloroplast. You'll never find these in animal cells, not even in rare cases. And then in the animal cells is a centriole, which you'll never find in plant cells, not even in very rare cases. If you would like to pause the video and copy down this list, that's okay. But I'm going to go ahead and move on and explain what these things are. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off with the nucleus. The nucleus is where DNA is stored. Think of the nucleus like the brain of the cell. It gives the cell a purpose. So the nucleus gives out the orders. It knows what it's supposed to do, and it knows what it wants the cell to do. So it has the instructions. If you have brown hair, that's because your DNA says you should have brown hair, so the cells are saying, let's make brown hair. Things like that. If your DNA does not say it's not supposed to happen, it won't happen. The nucleus is where that DNA is stored, and the nucleus is what makes things happen. The cell membrane is a semi-permeable membrane that encases a cell. Think of it like your skin and how it encases your organs. The cell membrane is the outermost layer, but the word semi-permeable is new. Semi-permeable means that you have a barrier. Let's think of it like this line. Certain things, such as water, can pass through, while other things, such as sand, can't pass through your skin. It's the same idea with the semi-permeable membrane. Certain things can move through with ease, but sometimes things can't enter the cell or leave the cell. They're too big, they don't have the right things to get in and out of the cell, things like that. The cytosol is the liquid component of the cytoplasm. It's what holds the organelles in place. Think of it like the jello that you see around holiday times that have the fruit suspended in it. Even if you move the jello around and you wiggle it some, the fruit's going to stay in its place. It's not going to sink down, it's not going to rise up, it just stays where it is. The cytosol keeps all the organelles in place, just like the jello keeps the fruit in place. The Golgi apparatus is a series of folded membranes involved with secretion and intracellular transport. It's a shipping factory. The Golgi is like Amazon. So, the Golgi takes whatever's given to it and it ships it wherever it's supposed to go, be it outside the cell, be it to another part of the cell. That's what intracellular transport means. And then secretion is when it moves things to be outside of the cell. Again, it's like a shipping factory. The lysosome is an organelle that contains digestive enzymes. They break down worn down parts of the cells and can destroy viruses and bacteria. I remember its function because we use Lysol to clean, and the lysosome keeps the cell clean. And then there's the peroxisome. It's a lot like the lysosome. The peroxisome breaks down things. It breaks down things that the lysosome can't, like fatty acids. This organelle also breaks down peroxide, which is how it got its name. Both of these work to keep the cell clean, just the peroxisome is a bit more specialized, whereas the lysosome is a bit more generalized. The mitochondria produces energy for the cell to use. They're often called the powerhouse of the cell. These are like the electric companies that keep the power running in your house. Without the electric companies, we couldn't turn on the lights. Mitochondria make energy for the cell to use, and without it, the cell couldn't function. Just think of it as an empty light, and then we'll have a nice full light. And that's the general idea of the mitochondria. So this one's going to be with the mitochondria, and this one would be without. Again, it's like a power company. The vacuole stores food and nutrients a cell might need to survive. It's like the kitchen of the cell. This is larger in plant cells because unlike animals, plants can't get up and go hunting for food. So when you water a plant, the plant will hold on to that water because it doesn't always have access to that water. Whereas animals, such as your dog, can go into the kitchen or wherever you keep the water bowl and take a few drinks of water. Plants can't do that, so they have to store things for the future when they're going to need them. The endoplasmic reticulum has two subtypes, which is the smooth ER and the rough ER. The rough ER has ribosomes, while the smooth ER does not. The endoplasmic reticulum helps to make proteins. This is like the factory for proteins. The Golgi is the shipping center. It's important that you don't get these confused because the Golgi doesn't have anything to do with making proteins, it just ships them out, where the endoplasmic reticulum is the factory where proteins are made. Ribosomes help make up proteins by putting the pieces required to make them together. They're the assembly line inside of the factory. So the factory, let's say we have the factory here. This is going to be our endoplasmic reticulum. It makes toys. These toys then go ship out to the Golgi, which ships them out to your home. Whereas the ribosome is the assembly line where these things are put together and made. So things happen in the ribosome, then they move on to the ER, then they move on to the Golgi. These are all three separate things that go together to make one function happen. But it's important that you know that all three of these things are very separate and have very separate purposes, even if they work together. The ribosome puts things together, the endoplasmic reticulum finishes the assembly, the Golgi ships it out. The cell wall, which is very specific to plants, is a rigid layer surrounding the cell membrane in plant cells. The cell wall acts as a hard shell and helps for plant cells to keep their shape. Plant cells typically have this nice rectangular shape, where animal cells are typically round. Unlike plant cells, animal cells can shrink and shrivel up, or they can swell up, whereas plant cells can't really do that because this green layer right here, this cell wall, doesn't allow them to. It makes them keep their nice rectangular shape. The chloroplast, which is again specific to plants, is where photosynthesis takes place, and it gives plants their nice green color. Photosynthesis, remember, is water and light, which makes energy in the form of sugars. All right, and then finally we have the centriole. The centriole is specific to animal cells, and the centriole occurs in a pair, so it's a pair of organelles that help during cell division. These two organelles turn one cell into two cells, which is called cell division, which we're not going to get into today, but it's an important term to know for the future. And that's going to be our crash course on organelles. All right, have a good day, everyone.